Good morning.
Morning.
The conditions of receiving and recycling. Wow. Okay. Today is our final look at the 12 conditions of a miracle. Today, we add the last two miracles, and then we take a look at where we are with each of the 12. And that's when I'll refer you to what's on your chair there. So remember, these 12 conditions or states of consciousness were taught to us by the master miracle worker, Jesus, in his classroom in the desert. He taught us these 12 conditions by embedding each of them within the miracle of feeding the 5,000 plus people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. Thus far, we've looked at 10 conditions or states of consciousness. And what was Jesus' overriding state of consciousness? What was his overriding state of consciousness? It was a consciousness of oneness, of unity. I love the words of Holmes in The Science of Mind. This is slightly paraphrased. Jesus was unable to find a place where his being began and the being of God left off, or where the being of God began and his ceased to be. He was one. He was one. I believe that while consciously setting up these conditions is somewhat mechanical, just like our Science of Mind treatments, our affirmative prayers, we have the 5 steps, and it can kind of seem a little mechanical at times. They have the overriding intention of building a consciousness of unity. Each of the 10 states of consciousness we have explored thus far are contained in the passage in Matthew 14, which goes like this. When Jesus heard of it, he departed thence by boat, alone to a desert place. That's condition 1, emptiness. And when the people heard of it, they followed him by land from the cities. And Jesus went out and saw large crowds, and he had pity on them, and he healed their sick. Condition 2, alignment with God, love through compassion. When it was evening, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a lonely place, and it is getting late. Dismiss the people so that the men may go to the villages and buy food for themselves." But he said to them, "It is not necessary for them to go. Give them something to eat." Condition 3, asking, getting clear about the need. They said to him, "We have nothing here except 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish." Jesus said to them, "Bring them here to me." Condition 4, maximizing. And condition 5, giving. And he ordered the people to sit down on the ground. Condition 6, grounding in the power of the present moment. And he took the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish, and he looked up to heaven, condition 7, seeing, turning away from the condition and turning to what? The source. And blessed them. That's condition 8, gratitude. And he broke them and gave them to his disciples, condition 9, act as if. And the disciples placed them before the people, condition 10, engaging the cycle. Okay. That's a lot. That's what we've covered so far this month. That is pretty amazing journey, isn't it? All right, so jumping right into condition number 11. Condition number 11, receiving. It says in the formula for miracles at Matthew, chapter 13, verse 20, and the disciples placed them before the people. So they all ate and were satisfied. What a simple sentence. So they all ate and were satisfied.
That was us yesterday.
Yes.
No.
Being a joyous, gracious, grateful receiver is an important part of the formula. The people received, they ate, and they were satisfied. In her book, Lessons in Truth, New Thought pioneer Emily Cady wrote, "We all have direct access through the Father to the great whole of life, to love, to wisdom, to power. What we now want to know is how to receive more from the fountainhead and to make more and more of God manifest in our daily life. The great need is to be a good receiver." It's already given. If the people had refused to receive the miracle, would not have been complete. If they had not eaten the food, the miracle would not have been complete. If they had groused and complained about only getting bread and fish, it would have seemed hollow, don't you think? Or what if they had refused to receive it because Jesus had worked so hard and sacrificed so much to do the miracle? They couldn't possibly take it. It would just be too much of an imposition. Oh, no. But none of that happened. The people received the food. They ate it and they were satisfied. Condition 11. How much good God can we experience? How much can we experience in our lives? as much as we can embody, according to Holmes. We often think we are experts on receiving. You would think that that would really be the easy part, right? But the fact is we have much, so much to learn in this area. Although receiving can be a simple, effortless matter, we complicate it in many unnecessary ways. Doubt and fear often keep us from recognizing and gracefully accepting the gifts of the universe. Not feeling worthy of receiving is a huge deterrent. And sometimes our darn egos, that darn ego, just gets in the way. It just gets in the way. Dr. Michael tells a story of declining to work at a certain emergency room because the recruiter was too pushy and seemed controlling. He chose another one, which turned out to be a disaster. Hours were long, working conditions were miserable, co-workers abrasive and difficult. After working there for over a year, he had an opportunity to take a single shift at the original emergency room. The regular doctor was ill, and the promise of double wages lured him to accept just this once, he grumbled. Within an hour of arriving, he realized that this was, by far, the best emergency room he had ever worked in. Working conditions were superior. Doctors and nurses were friendly. Equipment and backup were superb. And even the pay was better. Within a week, he signed a contract, and he worked there happily for 6 years. He wasn't able to receive, even though his good was pressing upon him 6 years earlier, right? The recruiter's perceived pushiness was actually the universe trying to make itself known to him. How many times have we pushed someone away because, they just seem so pushy? But maybe we needed to listen to the whole story there. His irritation with her was ego-based. As Holmes tells us in The Science of Mind, God cannot give us anything unless we are in a mental condition to receive the gift. That's our job. Edwin Gaines's affirmation, I now allow myself to receive all that I have withheld from myself in the past. Say that with me. I now allow myself to receive all that I have withheld from myself in the past. That kind of feels good, doesn't it? Okay, I want to hear next week everything that came to you after saying that. The power of receiving is so fascinating that we will explore a book by that title in October. Wait, that's not it. This is it. I brought it. It's called The Power of Receiving. So this is what we're going to focus on next month. Isn't that neat how it just kind of segued right in there? But for now, take a deep breath and let's dive into our final condition. Condition 12, recycling. Who plays or has ever played golf or tennis or baseball or racquetball or handball? Anybody play any of those? Yeah. Each of those activities involves a swing. There's one component of the swing that we often forget. We're so fixed on preparing for the swing with the right stance and the right wrist angle and the correct bend of the elbow, etc., that once we make contact with the ball, we think the job is done. Not so. There's one final component that is just as important. What is it, Rich?
Follow through.
It is the follow through. See, he's so handy. He plays golf. He plays golf.
Keeps me around.
Yes. The same principle applies to the conditions that bring about miracles. What happens after the manifestation is just as important as what happens before. Dr. Michael writes, the flow of energy must never be abandoned once the dream becomes a reality. When the desired results manifest, a certain follow-through must take place. Like a good golf swing, this follow-through will add considerable power to your actions and greatly increase the accuracy of your intent. In Matthew, chapter 13, verse 20, it's written, so they all ate and were satisfied, and they took up the excess of the fragments, 12 baskets full. Wow. Looking at the original Greek word, which was translated into excess, can mean excess, and it can also refer to a state of superabundance. Isn't it? I love that word, superabundance. What a fantastic word for Matthew to use. When the conditions of a miracle are set into motion, the supply that manifests is so bountiful that it surpasses simple abundance and reaches a state of superabundance. When this happens, there is more than enough for everyone, with the overage being handled carefully. The formula for miracle conditions tells us that any supply that was unused was gathered and not wasted. Think about nature and how She recycles energy and resources with precise care. Animals use oxygen and produce carbon dioxide as a byproduct. Plants then use this carbon dioxide as a fuel and produce oxygen as a byproduct. Plants use decayed material in the soil and water as food. Animals eat plants, grow larger, and eventually die. Their bodies are recycled through the process of decomposition and once again become food for the plants. Anyone seeking to work miracles must honor this universal pattern. This is accomplished by carefully recycling energy and resources that pass through your life. If you do this, you will engage with the great cycles of the universe that can produce or can provide the energy for all of the miracles in your life. Establishing the 12 conditions of a miracle is a bit like the spinner plate act. You've seen those before, the spinners? You have to get them all of the conditions going at the same time in order to open the door to the miraculous. And at first, this may just seem impossible. It's just far from easy to get any 12 things going at the same time. The task may seem out of reach. In fact, establishing and maintaining all 12 conditions simultaneously would be impossible if not for this good news. You have the ability to form habits. With positive habits, you can get some of the 12 plates to spin automatically. Then you don't have to worry about them. They're already going. With practice, this will leave you free to pay attention to the 3 or 4 conditions that may be a bit of a challenge or more difficult for you. A number of the 12 are probably already habits for you. Take a look at the paper on your chair or next to you, and with a nice deep breath, take a deep breath, read through them and do an assessment. Which plate do you already have spinning, so to speak? Perhaps you already have a rich and robust meditation practice. Excellent. Put a check mark next to condition 1, emptiness. Perhaps you have a well-articulated vision for our life. Fantastic. Check condition number 3, ask. Do you write in your gratitude journal every day or have some other ongoing gratitude practice that you do every day? Check condition number 8, gratitude. Let me just give you a moment or two to reflect on each one and do an honest self-assessment. And really, take a moment to feel good about yourself for all that you are already doing. That's awesome. We are on our way. Now, for the ones that you don't have checked, touch into which one is the one you would like to begin to focus on today. Anybody have one that they think they'd like to focus on today?
Number 8.
Number 11.
Number 11, okay. Awesome.
Together, then we'll come.
Yeah.
Don't try to get them all spinning at once. It's too much. Just do one at a time. Pick one, maybe 2, and write down what your commitment to yourself around that is. Write down what you're going to commit to. And then, as you master it over the next several weeks, pick another, and then another, and then another. And you'll begin to see miracles unfold in your life even before all 12 are completely mastered, because you will have put yourself in the consciousness of a miracle worker. And in this way, you will have experienced the promise that our master teacher Jesus made. These things and more you shall do as well. And so it is.